Hello, hello, construction professionals. Welcome to the podcast where we flip the script on what it means to live, breathe, and lead construction today. In this podcast series, we unpack how great construction can really be when you lead with humanity, put people first, and drop the bullshit of the way it's always been done. Our world has changed, our conversations have changed, and it's time construction catches up. All right, this is awesome. Matthew, I'm super excited to have you here. I'm super excited to have this conversation, and what we're going to talk about is instrumental to me in the construction world. It's instrumental to a whole bunch of individuals out there. So, fuck that, we're starting over. Matthew, welcome to the show. This is awesome. This is super exciting. I've been waiting to do this for a long time. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is super exciting.
This has been a long time in the making, and it's good to finally have this conversation.
You know, and so here I am, and there's a whole boatload of information about you and about the impact you have on the world and the impact you have on others around you that it wouldn't serve justice for me to describe it that way. So I'm going to volley this one right to you. Matthew, who are you as a human being?
That's a big question. I guess I can start off by saying I'm a 16-year-old, still in school, but obviously off for the summer. I'm working with my dad in construction. It's a completely different world compared to school. School is more focused on getting a degree and sitting in an office job, while construction, you're out there on the job site working hard and kind of doing whatever you have to. I like to do a bunch of different things. I like to wakeboard, mountain bike, hang out with my friends. Yeah, anything.
Awesome. Hang on, I got to pull the handbrake here because, you know, that introduction was beautiful. And the thing that sort of jumped out at me is you talk about school and construction and the transition. And this is the reason you're here, because you choose as a 16-year-old human being with, the world in front of you to say, I can do anything I want to do in the world. And you choose to say, Dad, I want to work with you. Teach me what you know. Do you love construction? Are you forced to construction? Tell it truthfully.
I don't think at all I'm forced into construction. My dad says, you know what, do whatever you want to do. And I think really I wanted to go into construction because at my age, I think a lot of people believe that you should be working for money at my age, but I'm still young, so I like to work for more experience. And so I like the idea that I can learn things from my dad and from people who are older than me in the construction industry. And later, whether or not I want to pursue it and go into it, I can figure out. But at least this way I know. And honestly, I really enjoy it. My dad's company kind of does a bit of everything, so I get to try everything, which is actually really nice. So I can kind of aim which things I like to do more. I like to pour and finish, but I also like to do some carpentry, like fences and stuff like that. And I do not like drywall. That's one thing I do not like.
Oh my gosh! Thank you. I mean that gave me a goosebump for so many different reasons. There was in a heartbeat. It was, I'm not forced into this. I actually want to do this. And you then unpacked even more to say, look, this is where my social community is today, which a lot of individuals, in your community are saying, well, I want to go and work for money. And you're saying, well, I'm looking for different opportunity. And you also defined, here's what I like. I like pouring and finishing. Awesome. But I don't like drywall. It takes courage and balls for anybody to say that. Right? Especially now where you're just entering the construction world. So what?
Yeah.
Look, this is beautiful, because you're saying, shit, man, I like this. I actually like this. And now, do your friends talk to you about construction? What do you?
Honestly, my friends do not talk about construction at all. Construction, when it kind of comes up, it's like their last resort. Like they're saying, if all else fails, I'll go become a bricklayer. That's kind of their idea.
Holy shit. So the ideology amongst the people that you hang out with are construction is a last resort.
Yeah, pretty much.
What are your thoughts on that? How do you react? What are your feelings on that?
I mean, I guess people think that construction is kind of like something that people who have no education or have no skills go to lean on as their last resort, but learning it and actually doing it, it really takes a lot of skill, and you have to be really smart. Like one of the guys I work with, he's a lot older than me, but like last year I worked with somebody else, but now that I'm working with him, I really realize how intelligent you have to be to understand, oh, this has to be an inch and a half bigger, this has to be less. It's crazy.
There's so many things buzzing around, so I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. First thing is when you talk about construction being a last resort, that's where the egotistical side of me steps in, and sort of the angry bear stands up and beats his chest and goes, "What's the matter with you, world?" Construction is absolutely if we've learned anything in the past few years, and let's call it what it is, through the COVID pandemic, what industry didn't shut down? Construction. So construction, and this might piss a bunch of people off, and if that does, suck it up, buttercup, I ain't for you. But the reality, and from my perspective, and that's my cognitive bias in validating what you're saying, is construction pre-COVID was dirty, dark, disrespected, a bunch of apes sludging hammers around. COVID hits, the only industry that doesn't shut down, or I shouldn't say didn't shut down, but was impacted the least, was construction. All of a sudden, construction was deemed essential when many other industries shut down. So for anybody, for those out there who suggest that construction is a last resort, I really invite them to be curious about that and challenge assumptions to find the truth on that one. So thank you for that. That was my rant, but I want to volley it back to you because you said something that really intrigued me. And you talk about, I heard you say you work with an individual who is much older than you. And what's that like?
I mean, there's benefits and disadvantages to it, like advantages and disadvantages. Coming from a communication standpoint, he doesn't really communicate at all. You kind of just have to know what he needs, which, I mean, I feel like it's not the fastest way to learn, but it's a good way to learn, because if you don't have the right thing, you'll get yelled at, and then right away you'll learn, right? But when he's trying to describe something to you, you don't know what he's saying, because he has a heavy accent, and he doesn't communicate. But not just like the actual physical that you can understand him, but he also doesn't communicate at all. So you kind of just have to understand what you're doing and know what you need, so that you're ready to give it to him or ready to do something else, which is tough sometimes. But he also teaches you how to do things in a way that others won't, because he's very precise and everything needs to be done properly.
Wow. There's a lot happening there, and if I was to describe that same scenario to other individuals, I might have some antennas raised out of their heads, say, like, what do you mean I have to push, pull, and pry to understand this individual? And not necessarily from a language barrier, but from a communication standpoint. I mean, you're talking about, it sounds like you're talking about an individual who is several decades older than you, and I do have the privilege of understanding that. I know the individual, and so he is several decades older than you, and it's not unique to him, it's unique to many human beings, the communication, the ability to communicate effectively. So look, I'm curious, you go through this regular, every day you go through this, and you know that you're gonna wake up early in the morning, kill yourself physically, mentally struggle, to understand what's going on and try to retain information and get dirty and get shit on and not shit on and everything else. What the hell keeps you motivated to do this?
I honestly, I mean, some mornings I do wake up and I'm like, oh, I have to get up, like if I go to bed later, but I really do enjoy it. Like there's parts of it that I don't, but the overall, I really enjoy getting the experience and learning what you have to do, how the construction industry really works. Because kind of hearing about it doesn't really do it justice about what someone actually has to do. Like someone says, oh, I built this fence. Then you break it down and you see what has to be done, the cuts, the precision. It's a lot more work than somebody says, oh, they just built this fence, whatever.
So what have you learned, like lesson learned from all this to this point in time? It's like I love that metaphor of building a fence. Oh, just, Jonathan, I'm going to slap up a fence. It'll take me a week. Okay, but now you really start to peel back the layers of that onion and say, that fence has multiple tasks oriented to do that. Doing what you're doing today, what do you learn from that to inject that into the rest of your life?
I would say it actually I think it helps me because sometimes when you think of a task, you think of the bigger picture, and sometimes it seems taunting. But once you break down the steps, even though it is a hard job, breaking down the steps helps you understand how to finish it. And when you break it down into smaller steps, it seems more achievable, which is kind of how I can relate it to the real world. So any type of goal you can do.
Okay, so bring me into something else in your world that at one point in time may have been daunting and overwhelming, and by breaking, this is huge. Like this speaks to exactly who I am as a human being, and this is where we see something that's this big angry bird up in the sky, and like I gotta get to that bird, I gotta get the bird. Like, so that's powerful. Where else does this resonate in your life?
I guess one area would be something like that. Initially, I was like, I can even relate it to like biking. So when I first started mountain biking, I wasn't very good, and I thought, oh, by the time I get better, I'm gonna be 20. But then I kind of took the steps. Okay, let me try going on a trail first. Then let me try speeding up. You slowly add different things, and then eventually you get good at it, right? So you start off biking on the road, understanding how the bike turns, how much you can lean without falling. Then you go on the trails, and then you say, okay, how much do I have to lean back before I fall going down a hill? And then slowly you get better and better. And then going for a jump, you kind of understand how much do I have to pump off of the jump so I don't land on my nose and go over the bars. So breaking it down kind of gives you a perspective on how to reach the goal that you have.
Interesting. And I have to make an assumption here, and I don't always like this word, but I'm going to assume is that really helps you sort of control the emotional reactions and the physiological changes of your body, right? You see, holy shit, I gotta go down this hill at this slope, right? And by dissecting that into and using the metaphor of going back to building the fence, shit, we gotta build this fence. Okay, where do we start? Well, you start by, step A, and maybe step A is laying out where you're gonna auger the hole. I'm not sure specifically, except that, the ideology of, and this is real life. I mean, you live this. It's like, Matthew, build the fucking fence. It should only take you 2 days. You're like, whoa, why don't you just chill? Because it's not maybe it is, but we hear that adage all the time. It's a 5-minute job. There's no such thing as a 5-minute job. No such thing as a 5-minute job. So thank you for breaking that down. Look, I also heard something else that I'm curious about. You talk about the mountain bike and what. First time on the mountain bike, what you're sort of learning the mountain bike. I want to flip the script on that one and volley this one over to you. Construction, you're on a job site and you're working with an individual, and he said to you, Matthew, go get this tool, and you've never used this tool, and you've never used this tool before. What's the first thing you do when you get a new tool?
I would say the first thing I do is I would obviously open up the box, like look at it, and kind of see if it relates to any other tool, like if it's similar. And if it's not, then I'd probably ask like what to do, because I don't want to. I would rather ask. I know that sometimes people won't want to ask because they have to swallow their pride and say like I don't know how to do it. But I would rather ask than break a tool and then ruin the entire job.
That's beautiful, and I love how you said that. There's that human beings get that pride. I'm too, whether we say it directly or whether we say it consciously or subconsciously. I don't want to ask, and look at the impact of not asking. Right? Ask the questions. Ask the questions. So there's a ton of things, but I'm. Tell me something. In your construction career to date, what's a cool memory that you think of that just you'll remember the rest of your life and it makes you smile?
I don't know what to. There's a couple. I would say maybe. I guess this isn't really part of my construction career, but I would say when I was younger, I've kind of grown up around construction. So when I was younger, my grandfather used to. At our cottage, he used to bring us and let us drive the Bobcat with him. So I guess every time I think about that, and now like driving the Bobcat alone and being like a lot of guys who come to work don't know how to drive machines, don't know how to drive the excavators. So I guess that's something that makes me happy, right? Having that memory of originally learning how to drive a Bobcat on my grandfather's lap.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, right? And that really hits home for me. For the rest of the world, his grandfather is my uncle, so I not only understand that it brings joy to me to hear that, and to sort of pay that forward. What shows up for me, and I stole your thunder here, and thank you for allowing me to do that. And that response to the question really emotionally charged me, for the reason that I have a photo. I have a photo of our son Christian. He must have been 3 at the time, sitting in the Bobcat, your dad's Bobcat, in the back of the shop, Surrey Construction, and there it might have been the mini excavator. I'm not sure which one, but I'm certainly going to go find that picture now. And just it's beautiful to hear that story. Beautiful to hear that story. Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. Because I have memories even of my own son learning how to drive a machine. So, good for you, man. Thank you. That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to go back to something because I'm still flabbergasted, and the only word that comes to mind is, when you talk construction to your friends, and they kind of the image I get, and this is me and my brain processing this, and it may or may not be accurate, except that they're looking at you like you got 3 heads when you talk construction.
Oh
right?
Yeah, 100%.
And this is what draws me to having this conversation and sharing this story with the world. Like, you're 16 years old and you're choosing to show up and say, I want to work construction. When a large percent of the world around you is saying, are you crazy? Are you crazy when I can go make a YouTube video or hop online and sell something or do something or e-commerce, and there's nothing wrong with that except that you're exploring a different pathway. That I believe, and I don't have the data to back this up today, but I will most certainly dig into it. I believe we don't speak about construction law. I know I'm a big advocate for that, and there's people in my world who share that. But I mean, this brings it to mind. Like, is construction talked about in school? Is it like, hey guys, Here's your career opportunity.
I don't think I don't think I've ever, like, in school, even in careers, that was like, of course, a grade 10 course. I don't think we talked about construction at all. Most of it was go to school, get a degree, get a job, go to work for 30, 40 years, and then retire. And it was always get a degree and use that degree. Go get an office job, work a 9 to 5.
Wow. Wow. I just need to pause when I hear that, because I might say something that's totally inappropriate and going to piss people off. And you know what? Tonight's not the night to do that, because it's all about you. And it's super meaningful to know that in light of all the resistance and even lack of information that's shared with you, you still choose to dismiss that. And you still choose to say, thanks world, I'm still going to choose my own path. And is there resistance along the way? Do people say, like, you're crazy, you have no idea what's it like?
I wouldn't say there's resistance. It's just kind of in school, the ideology is that you're only going to construction because you can't do anything else. Like, you couldn't get a degree. It's not that you didn't or you didn't want to. It's that you couldn't. You weren't smart enough, or you weren't anything. You just. It's always the last resort. Which, I mean, it actually really does upset me, but.
Sure it does. You know, and for every construction professional out there listening, this is what we're talking about. Like, go back to episode 1 for people first in construction and tell you, I'm a construction professional. Say it proudly. We don't. We fucking say, I'm just a little pipsqueak construction worker. No, man. No, absolutely not. It takes a lot of education, knowledge, skill set, desire, and everything else to work construction. And for anybody who thinks otherwise, man, you got to give your head a shake. I don't know what else to tell you. Right? It just, and you're 16 years old living in the world we live now. You know, our world has changed. Conversations around our world have changed, and we're still talking. And I'm not intending to stereotype here. I'm simply reverberating the information that I've learned tonight, which is, you know, in 2022, where we have so many different conversations worldwide, and we still are not wholeheartedly communicating the importance of construction to our young individuals coming up into society. Like, that's me slamming the desk because I'm sitting there, and that should have been my forehead on the desk saying, when do we want to wake up, people? When do we want to give our heads a shake and say, like, without buildings, there is no office jobs, there is no desk jobs, there is no doctors, lawyers, accountants. Somebody's got to build shit. And until artificial intelligence takes over and Terminator 2 shows up as Doomsday, construction exists. So thank you, Matthew, for choosing construction. Thank you for having this conversation today. You know, I want to throw something else out at you. You do this every day because you have passion for it, because you choose to get up and do it. And in your opinion, from what you've seen, what you've learned, what you know today, what does construction need more of?
I would say construction needs more of, I would say, employees who want to learn, not just employees who want to go to work, stay, whatever it is, the minimum, do the minimum, get their paycheck and go home. I would say it needs more people who want to learn, want to understand, and want to grow. Not only grow themselves, but help grow businesses.
Okay, so why is that important to you?
I think it's important to me because I see, even working with my dad, I see a lot of guys who they come into the company as laborers and they want to stay that way. Even though if they really try and they want to learn, they can become foremen or they can end up starting their own business, right? It's the idea that they want to do the bare minimum. Like even sometimes when we work, there will be people. Hey, can you put this? We're at the shop unloading the vans. Can you put this away? They'll take it and they'll put it on the floor. It's stuff like that, like the little things. You just, how much more will it take just to put it away? And these little things add up, and then once you learn, then you can do whatever you want. But it's the idea that employers also need to understand that they can't just always look for laborers or look for guys who are already skilled. Sometimes it's better to look for guys who don't know a lot, but then teach them.
So I heard a couple of things. I heard, number one is you want to work with people who actually give a shit, and that's not just construction. I mean, that's real world scenarios.
That's it.
Because when you surround yourself, I mean, let's talk about hockey for a second. I'm gonna transition to sports because it's how I relate to things. But if I'm playing on a hockey team, and the guys around me don't give a shit, and are not working hard, then you're never going to amount to anything as a team. Because one person, we've learned this, we've seen it. Connor McDavid, arguably one of the best players in the world today. Can he do it? He can't do it himself. These guys around him. I'm not saying, I'm not implying anything here. I'm simply saying that it resonated with me when you said you want to have people who actually care and actually want to be there. And so that was a great example where it's, you put something on the floor. Well, it doesn't put itself away. You put the saw on the floor, the saw doesn't get put away itself. So it's that extra little care, compassion. And so is there, I'm curious about this, is there, from your perspective, is there something that creates those limiting beliefs and holds people back from wanting more? What have you noticed?
I mean, I would say a lot of people just have the mindset that I'm only like actually a couple guys. One guy that works for my dad, he has the mindset that I'm doing this until I can do something else. It's kind of that in between job, and I guess that's based on the beliefs that he grew up around. People telling him, "Oh, construction isn't a good job. You'll never amount to anything if you work construction."
Oh, so construction is a placeholder, not for something else in construction. This is for a placeholder for something else in life.
Exactly.
And so that's disheartening because it's those sort of things that create the adages and the stereotypes that paint a negative picture. My perspective is I challenge that and flip the script on it and say, look, I don't give a shit if your job is, you're the chief coffee go-getter. Be the best damn chief coffee go-getter there is. And if that's your job for 365 days, that you bring hot, warm coffee to every person on that job site, then do it the best way you can. If that means you sing a song, I don't give a shit. Figure it out. But give it everything you got. It's not too hard to ask. Wow. Thank you. So, you mentioned something earlier on that I want to come back to, where you've had the, and I'm going to insert this word, I'm not sure if you said it or not, but you've had the pleasure and the opportunity and the honor of being around construction for much of your life, which is really cool in my eyes. That's my predetermined bias is getting in the way. But I suppose the question is this. You have a tendency, obviously you described it earlier on how you sort of extrapolate knowledge from, I'm going to use the word, other veteran construction professionals in the industry. You talk about working around somebody who's been doing this for a long time. What tips, tricks, hacks, routines would you share with other soon-to-be construction professionals?
I don't think there really is any tips or tricks, I guess the only thing I can offer is that you just have to really try your best. As long as you're trying your best, you'll slowly but surely get it.
Okay, so but
I don't think there's any certain tips or tricks that I can offer.
okay, so let's poke a little bit here.
Okay.
You're motivated to do this every day. Like, what is it for you? What's one thing that works for you that makes you excited to do it? Share that with the world. What makes you excited to do this?
I think honestly, for me, it's seeing the progress of a job that you do. It's seeing how something can start off as nothing and then become really. I'm trying to. Come on! I told you I was gonna be on this. Sorry, Jonathan. My dad just walked in.
Well, welcome to the podcast. Listen,
and he's
listen.
so on it.
Anthony Cinelli just walked in the room, world. He's going to say hello now. President, Chief Operating Officer, and clearly the ball breaker of Surrey Construction. So, Anthony, you might as well say hello to the world. Thank you for stealing your son's thunder. We're out here making this guy famous. And good old daddy's got a huge piece of your world, man. I mean, that's the reason we're all here today. For me, and that's the reason you're here today. So, thank you, Anthony, for creating that opportunity. And I'm going to volley that one back to you, Matthew. Like, you talk about that pride, about seeing something start to finish. Can you think of something else in life where you have the pleasure of that experience?
Honestly, I think pretty much anything. Like even going to the gym. You start off seeing yourself as maybe a timid guy or skinny guy, and you work hard, you put in the work, and then you slowly see yourself progress. Get bigger, get stronger, and there's that pride. That pride that you see yourself, you're saying, I worked really hard, but look what I got.
And thank you. That's a great metaphor, and that stuck with me too because we oftentimes hear, "Hey, I want to go and squat. I'm going to pick a number. I want to go and squat 450 pounds. I'm going to go, slap 450 pounds on a bar and squat it today, and I've never squatted before. Well, good luck. It's going to fucking crush you. Start with 100 pounds and work your way up. Work your way up from there, right? And that may or may not be a roadblock that I think that the world needs to hear about construction. It's like you don't just try this out as a placeholder for something else. Give it a good go. Commit to it wholeheartedly. Because there's a boatload of paths to pivot to in construction. And we go back to the messaging that, and I'm not here to shit on schools, but go back to the messaging in the schools is like, go get a desk job. Well, fuck. Construction has desk jobs. Construction, the guy that sometimes, not always, but sometimes, some of the best guys behind those desks are there because of the connection with people. And how do they connect with people? Because they've lived it. They've been in the trenches. They've done it. They can say, Matthew, listen, my perspective is this. When I was digging trenches and I was getting blisters on me, you know what worked best for me? I wore these gorilla gloves. I don't know. But the point is that you got to give it a go. You got to give it a go. So thank you. There's so many other things buzzing through my mind, but I see the passion in your voice when you talk about what you do and your life every single day. What's the best part of your job?
Best part of my job. I don't know. It's a tough question.
What's something you really, really enjoy? I mean, you talked about seeing something from start to finish. I got that. I'm talking the intangible stuff, the stuff that just lights you up inside. What's one thing that really gets you going?
really gets me going. I would say seeing. I guess I would say maybe making the person, like the people I work with, happy. I guess because one of the guys, Mike, the guy who's
Mm-hmm.
several decades older than me, he
Mm-hmm.
often gets really upset about small things. So I guess
Okay.
try kind of having things ready for him, having things like so that I know exactly what I'm doing, what he's doing, and knowing that I can hand him things, and this way things will go smoothly and I'll stay calm.
Wow. Hang on. I allow me an opportunity. I want to rebound this to you. These are your words. When I ask you, best part of your job, after some consideration, you come up and say, I don't know exactly what your framework was, but I guess like making somebody else happy, making them smile, making his day better, making that person's day better, and that comes back. How do you do that? You define it. I'm prepared for that person. I know, or I think I know. I'm ready for. I'm understanding what they're going to need next. And how do you do that? Well, that comes by actually giving a shit, by putting the effort in, by being present, by not dragging your ass every day, by showing up, even when it sucks and it's still dark outside and your alarm's going off and you know it's going to be a shitty day because you're going to have blisters on your hands and feet because you're digging a trench. You still show up for the people around you because it's those moments that make all the difference in the world. Thank you. Thank you for that. So I got a fun question for you. You know, you're entering a construction workforce right now, and you're working with. We're going to go back to Mike, who's much older than you. And we talk about. I want to inject technology into this conversation for a second, maybe more than a second, but I want to inject technology in. The question is this: instant connectivity, the smartphone, the dings, the business, the bubs, the every beep, buzz, vibrate, whatever the hell it is. Your perspective. Does it bring people closer together? Does it push people away?
I would say it does both.
Tell me more.
I would say because you have the ability to, for example, in the construction, hey, I need you to pick up this. So it kind of makes it easier for you to access somebody. But I also think that during lunch, let's say, or sometimes even on the job when you're supposed to be focusing, someone will pull out their phone and they'll start texting. So it takes them away from the job and takes them away from talking to others. So it's like it's pulling you away from really connecting with people who are there. You might be connecting with people who aren't near you, but you're not present. You're there, but you're not present.
Best answer in a long time. Period. Fuck everybody else listening. Matthew's 16 years old and has got this figured out already. He clearly defined for us how leveraging technology as a tool. Hey Matthew, I need you to do this. Or Matthew, how's it going over there? Awesome. And really unpacked how that instant connectivity can create a barrier. Great perspective, like really, right? We're sitting around, and what do? This is not just construction, this is real life, but how many times are you out there and you're talking to somebody? I mean, this pisses me off, and I've talked about this extensively, and we'll continue to talk about this for the rest of my life, where you're out there and, you know, you get interrupted and somebody checks their phone. Seriously, you're in the same space. Connecting with the people in front of you is the most important gift you can offer. So thank you for that. I mean, that was just well said, man. Well said. Human beings connect around food. We always have. And I'm sure as long as we need to eat, we always will. So that was awesome to hear. Awesome to hear. All right. Like, look, I'm still digesting that. That was just beautifully said. But come back to construction for a second. We've talked extensively about the sort of ideologies around the communities today from your perspective, and a lot of which I support and agree with. But what's one myth about construction you think is worth debunking?
I guess I would say that, which we've went over multiple times in this, that people who are stupid work construction, or only people who fail at other things work construction.
And we may have said that earlier on, and we did. And this time, that made it, and maybe it was the word stupid, because that has a different connotation for me. That's true, right? I mean, there's you're stupid. No, stupid is a pretty powerful word. Or a pretty powerful word. So yeah, high five on that one. I agree with that one for sure. That's most certainly worth debunking. So, all right. So you're sitting around, you're enjoying a meal with your friends, and an alien from outer space comes down and says, "The fuck do you guys do with your time? What do you do? What do you do in the summertime for summer jobs? And what careers you want to get into?" And you jump up out of your seat because you're so energized and enthusiastic, and you actually love what you do, and you're going to be extremely successful at anything for the simple things you've already extrapolated from construction at 16 years old, and you're going to continue to excel at the career you're doing. But this green alien, he's now green, but he's green, comes down from outer space, and what the fuck do you do? And you put up your hand and you jump out of your chair and say, "I work construction." And he looks at you with his 6 eyes and his antennas, and he goes, "What the hell is construction?" So fill in the blank. What the hell is construction?
In one word, or?
Your show, man. Construction is fill in the blank.
I would say construction is taking nothing and building it into something.
Ooh. I had to take that for a second, because that is so relevant physically, mentally, spiritually. Say it to me one more time. I just love that.
Construction is taking nothing and building it into something.
Taking nothing and building it into something. We're talking, for me, we're talking human beings. We're talking buildings. We're talking mindsets. We're talking our physiological makeup. Now that is awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to go through this. You know, you choose to show up every day, get dirty, get in the trenches, and now I fully understand why. You know, when you really extrapolate everything you can from those around you, and you take you exemplify, you take the human being approach, and you don't egotistically say, "Fuck this shit, this is disgusting, dirty, and I'm not willing to do this." You're sitting there going, "What can I learn? How do I better prepare myself?" I mean, I think that's the underlying message that I've heard. How do you prepare yourself? You're thinking one step ahead. How do I grow? How do I become better? How do I prepare? How do I prepare so that the individual I'm working with becomes better, or makes his day better? Because that's something we really didn't touch on, and that's important to me too, right? You know, you talk about, hey, I want to make Mike's day better, and by making Mike's day better, the energy is organically going to flow back to you. Your day's going to be better. It's going to stick. So thank you. This was super fun for me. Thank you for allowing me the time out of your day to go through this. Thank you for bringing me into your world. Thank you for allowing me to understand the conversations that are or are not happening in schools, the conversations that are or are not happening within the young communities and the mindset, the stereotypes, the assumptions that are or are not happening in construction. I mean, that was the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway is, there is I'm going to use the word inappropriate, an inappropriate picture pasted still today in 2022, which is unfortunate, that you're in construction because you're stupid. And that one hit hard. And I love what you said about the importance of connecting with people. And the biggest takeaway for me that landed for me is construction is taking nothing and making it into something. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
Thank you for having me. It was really, this has been, as I said before, a long time in the making, and it's good to finally have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me the opportunity. Thanks for sharing this with the world, and I look forward to continuing this conversation when we do version 2, 3, and 4. And here's a little plug: is that one day when Anthony, your dad, has an opportunity to be on this podcast, we'll make sure that we do it at the most inappropriate time and allow you the space to pop into his show too.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and the best part of the entire interview, I'll walk in.
Thanks for taking the time to do this, Matthew.
No problem.
Appreciate you having you here.